Everyone, and thank you for joining today's Solution Series webcast, How Leading Law Firms Send Smarter. Today's sponsor and content provider for our webcast is Pitney Bowes. And for those of you who may have met Tom at a number of our meetings over the years with ALA, Pitney Bowes is a large ALA supporter. You can find them currently among the pages of Legal Management Magazine and also ALA's Legal Marketplace. We're real proud to have them today. And let me let you know a little bit about Tom, our speaker. Tom is the North American Channel Director for Shipping Solutions with Pitney Bowes. He's the Channel Director for Carrier Management Solutions as well in the United States and Canada. Tom started with Pitney Bowes in 1985, and over the past 30-plus years, his roles have ranged from customer service to sales with increasing responsibilities, including sales director in a variety of places across the U.S. He's currently responsible for managing the Carrier Management Solutions product group for the U.S. and Canadian field organization, as well as the North American inside sales channels. In addition to his current role, Tom sits on several postal, education, and development boards and direction committees within the organization, conducts client education webcasts throughout the year on behalf of Pitney Bowes, and also speaks at various Postal Customer Council events. Tom was one of the country's first Certified Postal Consultants, CPC designation with Pitney Bowes, and has earned President's Award, which is presented annually to one director nationwide, and many Global President's Forum Awards through Pitney Bowes. So Tom, with that, let me introduce you.
I think you've done that in a great way, my friend. I appreciate that, so thank you very much. So good afternoon, everyone, and hopefully if you're in the Northeast, you've dug out by now from the massive snow we've now received once again from Old Man Winter. So the ALA is a phenomenal business partner, and Sean and your team, I really want to thank you. Attending your events and attending your webinars is really a privilege and a pleasure. You've got a great organization. I'm very fortunate in my role to work with many different types of organizations, from the legal vertical to college university to the government vertical to finance. You have sincere, great involvement with your people, which is awesome to see. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
My pleasure. So we'll talk a little bit today about the benefits of automating the back office when it comes to managing UPS and FedEx and DHL and U.S. Postal in the world, which is really becoming an important conversation today. Those rates just continue to increase and rise, get more convoluted and complicated, and let's face it, paralegals and admin within your organizations, that's not their level of expertise. It's something they have to do as a part of their job, but that's not their primary role. So we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll talk about the impact of employing, business rules to really manage the spend overall, because as we all know, not every single dollar that goes out the door from a standpoint of sending things ends up on the client's bill. So some of it is incurred by the orphan and house accounts. So it becomes imperative to really manage the spend overall, even dealing with clients and how you're billing them. And we'll talk a little bit about chain of custody as well when it comes to the inbound side of the business, just give a little flavor around that as well. And then obviously open it up to any questions you may have. So appreciate your time today in the agenda. So in looking at common practices, and I've been very fortunate to work with many different size law firms, single site to multi-site to enterprise law firms overall, in all types of legal environments overall. And what I commonly see, and what we commonly see as an organization, is a lot of organizations really utilize a single carrier-provided solution to ship at the desktop and at the mail center, whether it's Campus Ship or FedEx server or DHL. Carrier websites are most commonly used. And when it comes to trying to account for the client matter spend, most organizations utilize a remarks field on those carrier sites. Unfortunately, ordinarily, they're not something that is validated in making sure that it is a correct client matter number, or for that matter, that it's a required field overall. So there can be some challenges around that piece. And then when it comes to physically charging back to clients or the orphan and house accounts, unfortunately, at times, it's a manual process. So fees can be missed, carrier adjustments can be made after the fact, and client matter codes may be missing, so the search goes on from an accounting perspective of who to build this back to. Again, trying to avoid the house account, the orphan account if we possibly can. And if that's the case, those costs are absorbed by the firm overall, which obviously erodes profitability of the firm itself, and obviously lessens the margins, if you will. And then from a standpoint of billing, because carriers bill weekly, net 10 as far as having to pay, there's opportunity there from a standpoint of timeline to bill a client properly and effectively. So instituting carrier management technology, moving to the right, really allows you to utilize one solution no matter the carrier. And it could be within a single carrier. So there's ways of managing a carrier and getting their least cost alternative, even with a single carrier opportunity, if that is in fact what your trajectory is as far as how you handle your carriers overall. And automated solutions from a carrier management standpoint have dedicated fields, which are required and also validated to make sure that the client matter information that is in fact entered is legitimate, is correct, and is required. So it really can streamline that process. And then the other piece that is really important is there's a lot of additional carrier fees. So, you think you're sending a package out, you see a cost associated with it of $8 for a 1-pound package, for instance, but come to find out later when the bill arrives, it could be double or even triple that amount based on additional carrier costs, such as residential delivery surcharges, area surcharges, address correction surcharges, fuel surcharges, and the like. So an automated carrier solution will make sure you're capturing all costs at point of sending. So you know exactly what the send and spend is when you actually do the transaction. From a reporting standpoint, this is a key component. Automated multi-carrier solutions can create daily export to automate the process of billing back client matters in an automated fashion. And they can do it on a daily basis. So instead of waiting for a week to turn in order to bill clients properly or bill back internally, you can actually have that happen on a daily basis and on a scheduled basis overall. So that makes it very simple to aggregate all the costs by client matter number, no matter how you're sending it. So if it's client matter for Tom Hazel and the matter is Toys R Us, to keep in the news today, you'll assure that those costs, whether it's a USPS package, a UPS package, or a FedEx package, or a combination of all three, is captured and billed accordingly overall. So the accuracy piece is really important, right? So no one ever wants to inaccurately bill a client or bill a firm for that matter. So it becomes really important around that piece. If that can be automated and simplified and eliminate human intervention in a lot of cases, it can really streamline your processes from an accounting perspective, from a billing perspective, and from a client relationship perspective as well overall. So the other piece is business rules. So with carrier systems, the remarks field is often used for the accounting purposes. Again, not a validated field. But the other piece that really becomes prevalent that we commonly see in our industry is that a lot of folks send without entering a proper weight on the package itself. So there's a reliance there of the carrier to do a reweigh or making sure that it's the right weight overall. So what you think may be going out as a 1-pound package will in fact be billed at a 3 or 4 or 5-pound value. So that really skews the accounting data overall and billing back clients to begin with. And it really also, if you're using carrier provided solutions, and many of them, maybe a UPS system and a FedEx system and so forth, it really doesn't enhance your ability to ensure that the folks that are sending are making use of the most lucrative contract you have with the carrier. A quick example, you may negotiate with UPS or FedEx as an example and determine that you're going to end up with UPS as your vendor of choice from a sending standpoint when it comes to overnight and other services offered by that carrier, only to find out months later that other sites are still using the other carrier. So your folks are not being compliant to what you're trying to accomplish from a standpoint of volume, discounts associated with that volume from that carrier, and the usage of that carrier overall. So it can be a difficult situation around that piece as well. Obviously, if you're negotiating with a carrier, you're doing so based upon volume and spend. So their discounts offered are associated in that degree. So it's very important that folks only, utilize the carrier you're instituting across the enterprise. And a simple email saying now we're using FedEx doesn't always become the case when days and weeks go past. Folks go back to their habits, if you will. And when it comes to surcharging, those are items that really are substantial. Address correction fees this year for UPS went from $14 to $15.80, so a $1.80 increase overall. Address corrections from FedEx went from $14 to $15. Residential deliveries went up around 14%. Delivery area surcharges went up as well. And fuel is something that moves every single week now for the carriers. So it can be a challenge overall. When it comes to street-level hygiene, carrier-provided systems do provide a zip code and city-state check, but they don't do street-level address cleansing. And in that regard, it's a pretty hefty charge at $15.80 or $15 for the two carriers I've mentioned. So that's something that most firms absolutely want to avoid, because ordinarily speaking, it's not something you can go back to the client with from an address correction standpoint and charge them forward. And the other piece, too, is that, again, these are paralegals, they're admin, they're lawyers themselves. They need to move something in a timeline. Necessarily cost isn't associated with that timeline. So not having a solution that can look at the cost and delivery objective really is prohibitive. It doesn't give you the opportunity to look at least cost alternatives with the carriers. And if you are using multiple carriers, say you're using USPS, UPS, and FedEx, you're literally working with multiple databases in which to send things to. So while the address may be wrong in one system and correct in another system, maintaining those multiple address bases becomes a challenge overall. So in looking at, carrier management technology, you have dedicated fields associated with accounting. You have the ability to do a ship request, so users don't necessarily have to know the weight. They can have the mail center finalize the transaction when the weight is actually captured legitimately. You can ensure that your users only use the carriers that you want them to use. So there is no access to other carriers within an application in a multi-carrier product if you want to restrict it to specific carriers overall. And they also provide total cost. So everything associated with the transaction, your fuel surcharges, your delivery area surcharges, your unavoidable charges are captured during every transaction. And it also ensures within the application that the address is correct as provided. So you're making sure that you're not going to incur accessorials such as address correction, which really add very limited value to your organization overall. In fact, likely the package will be delivered. You're just incurring a charge because of a directional missing, misspell of a street, misspell of a location. Things of those natures really cause those costs. Street versus road is a $15 or $15.80 charge. So the last piece that's really important here is, second to last, is smart shopping. So understanding when you want it delivered and the ability to look at when it will be delivered really allows you to provide your organization with a simple tool that will say, hey, I want it delivered Thursday, it's Wednesday, what are my opportunities between the carriers? It's just as simple as that. Being at this for about 30 years now with Pitney Bowes, I'm of the belief that most folks don't want to overspend their organization's monies. They just don't, no matter what field they're in, whether in legal, whether in college, university, higher education, finance, or so forth. They don't want to overspend organization's money. They just don't have the tools to do it effectively as far as managing that spend. And then obviously, last but not least, with a multi-carrier product, you have a single address database in which to do all your transactions, so you're not maintaining multiple address database overall, which is important. So with that, we're going to take a minute and we're going to share and we're going to take a look at, if we could, just the application, because we get a lot of questions post these kind of situations, webinars, where we say, okay, what is the tool? So in this case, this is SimPro Enterprise, and this is a multi carrier solution, allowing you to manage your spend across multiple carriers and throughout the entire organization. So from this aspect, it's just a simple website. So this is a SaaS-based or cloud-based solution. A user simply can just grab their address out of their address book, and they can import addresses very easily in the application. So we can import addresses via Google Contacts, Dropbox, or CSV. So within CSV, it's an Excel file, if you will. And they can import addresses through a personal address book, a location, a department, obviously a global address book as well. And we can even do bulk list for things of that nature. But a lot of folks said to us in development of the product, you know, we're going to move from a UPS, we're going to move from a FedEx system. How easily can we get our addresses into your product? And we also allow that you can import addresses from those two applications directly. And going further, also Outlook. So very easy to import addresses into the application overall. So I'm just going to grab an address. So in this case, Richard Nigas, Nigas Electronics, going to Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. The send from is sitting underneath here to kind of keep the screen simple and uncluttered. So obviously you can change your send from, or the user default upon entering the system is their location. So in this case it's Boston, if you will. So if I'm traveling though, I can actually change my send from. I can pick another location, I can pick another address, or I can also type in address within the application. So right here I can also validate the address. So I can make sure the address information is correct. This little infraction would have actually cost this organization, and depending upon the carrier, $15 or $15.80. So it's a simple issue around the zip code and the spelling of the street information. So if I hit update, the system automatically updates the address in a web services call. It also understands residential versus commercial delivery. Very important when you're looking at carrier shopping, looking at the alternatives to include those costs overall. You also notice that we are capturing within the address book a phone number, which is required for overnight, and also an email address. So the email address allows that the solution can send an email to Richard Nigas saying this package has been shipped and here's your tracking information. So very simple from that aspect. From a chargeback standpoint, this is where you can add your client matter, your cost center, your company codes, whatever you may use, and this is a validated field. So if I put in a piece of information that's not correct, I cannot progress in the system. So you can't rate it, you can't send it, as you see here on the right. Once I do enter a legitimate information as far as client matter or cost center, the system will let you progress as well. So at that point, I can enter the weight, or if I don't know the weight, I can obviously let the mail center do the work. But in this case, we'll put in a 6-ounce package. The benefit of actually capturing the correct weight is that USPS, as an example, they weigh in ounces. The carriers all round up the pounds, so you do have an advantage associated with getting the right weight from the beginning overall. So if I rate this package, the system is simply going to go out utilizing your UPS number and your FedEx number and your postal information, and it's going to basically look at all the opportunities to deliver the package. So in this view, you have the ability, it's Thursday, it's the 22nd today. If I want it delivered tomorrow, I can get it delivered tomorrow with UPS, and these are just commercial published rates. These would be your rates. You see I can deliver it tomorrow for $47.99. Or have an opportunity to deliver at 3 p.m. for $41.51. So the savings there is just over $6. So you're roughly at a 15% savings. And then I also have an opportunity with FedEx sitting here as well. And anytime you see more, there's another rate sitting underneath there that is likely more expensive overnight. So there's the rates there. So if I want to go priority mail, you also notice that you have a priority mail opportunity here. So you'll see that you do have U.S. Postal in here as well within the application. So if you want to go with UPS 3 p.m. delivery, you simply hit send, select it, and send it. And the system can generate a carrier label of any multifunctional device, or in a mail center, perhaps a dedicated label printer. But it's just that simple to generate a transaction within the application. So if I'm not talking through the application, I'm just going through, I'll just select my information, select my carrier, put in my weight in the package, hit my chargeback information, put in my client matter number code, and rate the package. It's a pretty quick process to get the package through the system. So it's not a lengthy process to do if you're not talking. So in this case, I have a chance at sending it $67.93 with UPS, $62.59, or $62.30 with FedEx in that case. And then I also have priority mail opportunities as well. You'll notice that you see a sunshine here. So sunshine indicates a guaranteed service from those carriers. So anything you have a sunshine on is a guaranteed delivery by those carriers overall. So pretty effective, pretty simple within the application. If I want to go priority mail, I select priority mail, I hit ship and send, and the system will generate a priority mail label. So in this case, this will be live postage. So there's nothing more to do. The label that comes out will be live postage within the application. There's no need to put a postage meter tape on it. This will be ingested directly into the postal system and be live postage when it does send. So very simplistic from a user standpoint. But if I wanted to view that transaction, I want to look it up and say, okay, has this been delivered yet? I can literally go into the application as well, and I can track within the application too. So there's the transaction we just did. I can look up the transaction. I can check tracking history, see when it's delivered, even look at signatures when they are delivered. So pretty simple from that aspect. The other piece we want to talk about is return receipt electronic. So in prior webinars we've done as a team, Sean, we've talked about electronic return receipt. Pretty simple interface here too. Pardon me, I'm struggling with a little bit of a summer cold. I mean spring cold, but it's not even spring yet here, right? So I can select an address. If I want to go to Dave Kushner and I want to send to him in Market Street, I can also validate return receipt electronically if I want to. With this, I can also include a reference field. So I can include a client matter number, and so it's 0909, for instance, and I want to do electronic return receipt, and I can send that transaction that quickly in the application. So multi-versatile system within, allowing you to do many different transactions within the application. So here is a cover letter with return receipt electronically done in the system as well. So with that, I'm going to jump back over, and I'm going to jump back into the presentation itself if I could. So wanted to give you a couple of client profiles and case studies, if you will. These are firms that have used our system and are using our system. So in this case, it's a 4-location full-service law firm, $50,000 in postage across all 4 locations, about $250,000 in UPS and FedEx spend overall. And talking to the client, the 2 locations were using UPS. They did not realize that was the case. They thought everybody's using FedEx. Overall, that was their account of choice. And from an accounts payable standpoint, they're getting 25 carrier invoices per month on 10-day terms. They were manually updating the client matter system with bill back and services overall. So somebody in accounting was doing that in a manual fashion. And they really had no specific business rules around carrier usage or type of services offered. I'm going to take a sip of hot tea if you don't mind. So their objectives were really to automate the carrier usage within one tool. So they capture all the costs in one solution. Automate the client billing. So somebody in accounting is not doing this on a weekly basis. It's done on a daily basis in an automated fashion. And they really wanted to look to automate and reduce their spend with the carriers and reduce the number of invoices. So we were able to place SendPro Enterprise, which we've just shown you in application. Really, it automates the entire process for them. All the above processes are automated. It's helped them reduce spend in the area of 10%, 9 to 10%. And they also are enlisted in our carrier payments program, allowing that they're not invoiced weekly by the carrier, they're invoiced monthly by Pitney Bowes. So we've allowed the total streamline of the invoicing structure internal to the organization, but also automated to bill back to the client piece as well. So it's worked out quite well in that regard. We have another firm, though. It's a single site personal injury litigation firm, if you will. Not a lot of postage, 10,000, so they're roughly around $800 a month in postage, using a postage meter. UPS spend was around $100,000. And they were using CampusShip, and they were utilizing the remarks field for a client matter chargeback case basis. They did see what they thought to be was an extensive use of overnight services for regional deliveries. So by that, I mean, if they're in Philadelphia and they were delivering just outside the city, there's a lot of overnight usage when ground and other services could get it there within that same exact time period. And then all costs aren't billed back to clients, right? So if they won every case, they would be, but that's not necessarily always the case. So there was a fair amount of revenue that was being absorbed by the organization overall. And they were manually updating and billing back as it would be. And they were basically utilizing a manual process to do return receipts. So they're using the old green card. When you think about it, it's 2018. And we're taping a green card to a back in an envelope in the hopes that the post office brings it back with a signature. There are automated ways of doing that with the post office, instituted since 2003, and it's known as electronic return receipt. So the electronic return receipt automates the entire process of processing a mail piece, but it also automates the return of the electronic return receipt. That comes back in a PDF format. So there's no longer a green card involved. It's a PDF format that you can upload into your systems. So their objectives were really to automate the carrier usage with one tool, right? Automate client billing in its entirety, reduce overspend. So they wanted to look at USPS versus UPS, especially regional deliveries. UPS and USPS deliver in very similar timelines, so there was an opportunity around that piece as well. And then eliminate manual green cards. Again, they instituted the multi-carrier system, and they eliminated all those manual processes, automated back office, automated electronic return receipt, and really, really important to them was standardize the return receipt process. And by that I mean, if I get a green card back and I'm doing it manually, I can open my drawer, and that's where the green card goes. Sean could get the green card back, and he could staple it to the client folder. And then, Susie could get it back, and she staples it, scans the front, scans the back, and puts it on a file folder on her desk. The challenge there is we all work for the same firm. So you have 3 different ways of saving a return receipt manually, which could cause compliance issues when the court of law is required to show it up, to show that piece. So it can be challenging overall. So that was case study number 2. The other piece is inbound, right? So from an inbound standpoint, many firms, allow that the receptionist receives packages throughout the day. So this is in reverse, right? So it's carrier management coming into the organization. So throughout the day, they receive packages. They manually record the packages, perhaps on a log. They maybe manually generate an email to the end recipient within the organization to tell them to pick it up or they'll deliver the package. And obviously there's some errors around the opportunity there as well. And as far as researching it, it's a paper method, right? So if you're keeping a manual log, it's a paper log to look up later on when you try to come to find out where is this package. So there's really no complete chain of custody. And it's not just, at this point, you're just receiving packages for the firm. A lot of employees ship packages for themselves to the firm overall. So you're really trying to keep track of not only the firm's packages coming in, but also employees. So from a dissatisfaction issue, this can occur as well, right? So delayed deliveries, I didn't get my package, where is my package? So you can also automate this process through an application we offer as well. So we can automatically scan those packages, assign the recipient. The solution can automatically email the recipient, generating an email saying, come get your package, or we'll deliver your package, whatever your choice is. And we can eliminate the error. We can eliminate the whole process of manually doing this work overall. And then from a research standpoint, you have complete visibility to package information. So if you need to go back a day later or a week later or a month later or a year later, you can look at when that package was received, when it was delivered, even including the signature of the recipient if you want to do that, which really provides you full chain of custody. It also eliminates a lot of running around trying to figure out where are these items within the organization, which obviously improves satisfaction overall. So with that, there's another case study around this, and we'll talk about it in a second, but we automate the entire process through a simple, again, SaaS or cloud-based tool that allows you to scan the package, assign the recipient, automatically emails the recipient about the package information, allows you, if you wish, to capture the signature of the recipient and really provide a totally closed-loop process around receiving the package, but also the history you may need go forward. Again, whether it's a year from now, a day from now, or a month from now. So we can do that as well and automate this piece. Again, it's 2018. Do we really need to do these things manually if you think about it and think through it? So with that, we have had, many different size organizations that utilize this software specific to the legal world. 2-location firm, manually recording packages at one location. The other location wasn't even bothering with it. They just kind of received them and kind of handed them out. UPS packages, FedEx packages, DHL, even local carriers to manually kind of track that. And at times, packages and overnight letters went missing. The challenge there is who's got it, where's it been, where's it going, who has it. So delays definitely occurred in delivery and in the process overall. And they did receive frequent complaints from the legal team, the lawyers themselves, about packages and where they were. So there's a concern from a standpoint of the leadership organization, and obviously no chain of custody. So their goal really was to automate and standardize the process of receiving everything that's accountable, whether it be a package, an overnight letter, a fax, anything from a courier, but also from the carrier's traditional, if you will, UPS, FedEx, DHL, and the post office, and really automate that process so they had full chain of custody. And they really wanted to limit IT involvement within the organization. In this case, smaller firm, so they contracted out their IT costs. So they wanted to limit the need from an IT perspective because of that. So we did provide Sensory Tracking Online, which is a cloud-based solution. It automated all the processes, provides full chain of custody, full history, all information available throughout the organization, being a cloud-based solution, and little to no IT involvement at all because of that fact. So from a standpoint of carrier management, really there's two things to look at, right? So you're looking at your outbound spend and how much you're spending with the carriers, and how do you manage that better? How do you provide cost controls around that piece, really to eliminate non-value-added services, really control who spends and when they send and what they spend when they do send, provide compliance to reduce risk around that piece, standardize the overall practices, including return receipt, and it really speeds and improves productivity. So it allows that they're more productive. I mean, their role isn't to be sending things. Their role is as admin, paralegals, support staff, and so forth. So it frees them up to do what they really do well for the firm, which is their primary role within the organization. Sending something is just a subjective, one-off or once a week or once a month or once a day. It's not contributing to the overall firm growth. The opportunity here is that it's a part of their role in the organization, as opposed to the mail center as an example. And automation, the automation piece allows that organizations of all sizes, no matter their size, really can standardize their process throughout the firm. They can eliminate manual tasks. They can ensure accuracy in client billing, which is really critical. It is your reputation. And they can get involved with monthly billing from a carrier perspective versus a weekly billing. So they can really improve their time and money around that piece as well from an operational standpoint. So with that, Sean, I appreciate your patience with me here. My little throat going on, I apologize, my cold, but I'll hand it back over to you.
Hey, thanks, Tom. Get some water. We do have a few questions, and I appreciate you taking us through. It was even kind of interesting there to see the demo, because I think a lot of us, as ALA members, a large priority across the board in member surveys is firm profitability. And, a lot of us are working towards that through efficiencies we may gain at an individual level or transactional level even in our day-to-day work. So that was super helpful. We are going to have a couple of, everyone, if you want to go ahead and chat any questions you might have, we will work to get to each of them. You would want to go ahead and use the chat box there on your screen and simply chat to panelists. Tom, one of the things that was like sort of immediate that maybe came during your demo slides there was, what amount of savings can one expect to see? I think you maybe had a good example of the amount of parcels someone was sending out, but what on average would you suggest is a benchmark or a guidepost?
That's a phenomenal question. So, yeah, so it can range, obviously. I mean, if you have organizations using a lot of overnight costs, there could be a huge opportunity to reduce costs by anywhere from 15 to 20 to 30%. If there's a limited overnight cost, it could go 5 to 10% overall. So when we look at it from our perspective, we look at it from anywhere from a 5 to 25% savings with the carriers. And even if you bill 100% of that to your clients overall, obviously you want to be cognizant of their money. When it comes to the return receipt side, the savings on return receipt is $1.25 per transaction, which can add up very, very quickly. So when you start bringing it all together and look at the overall cost, you are definitely in the 10% on up range ordinarily. However, I've seen it where it's run much higher, again, based upon how carriers are used today and sending habits of the organization overall. But just a phenomenal question. Thank you.
Very good. Someone did ask, are we going to be able to see this information? Yes, we are going to share a archive email to everyone that registered for this webcast. But if you like further detail and would like, Tom or the Pitney Bowes team to contact you directly, you can let us know at the end of this webcast. We'll have some details and some follow-up in the email that you receive. Hey, another question that came over, and this goes back to this, along the lines of savings, Tom, is if you've negotiated discounted rates with a carrier, how are those rates incorporated into the carrier management system for cost comparison with other carriers?
That's another awesome question. It's phenomenal. So what the solution does is uses your specific account number with the carrier. It then makes a call to the carrier and presents your negotiated rates in the view. So the rates you would see in that rate shop view, if you will, are your rates from UPS or your rates from FedEx. Postal rates are obviously standardized, but there's some opportunity here too, because the postal rates in this application are actually commercial plus rates. So they're highly discounted by the post office because you are generating an electronic IMPB, Intelligent Mail Package Barcode label for the Postal Service. So your savings on the postal side using this versus a meter or stamps is anywhere from 15 to 40% for the post office. Rates you probably likely don't know about today. It's called commercial plus rates. But from the carrier perspective, we utilize your account number in the application to access your rates that you negotiated directly with the carrier. Great question. The other thing you want to consider, if I could, Sean, is that a lot of firms really make a decision about deciding on a carrier, not only on discount, but the fact that they'll have to choose to train or retrain folks on a brand new interface. So if you're using Campus Ship, for instance, and then UPS is in there and you're talking Campus Ship, and that's where you've been, but FedEx comes with a higher rate discount, you may be reticent to do that because you have to retrain the entire organization on another interface. This is the same interface no matter who the carrier is all day long. So there's some benefit around that. So it's the same user interface no matter the discount. You may choose to move between carriers every single year if it's up to you based upon discounts alone. So I answered the question probably more so than you anticipated, Sean, but I hope it was helpful.
No, it was. I mean, it's funny you mentioned, you know, the receipt situation, the green card, and how I might do it, you might do it, Susie might do it, somebody else might do it completely different, and we're all at the same firm. You know, we have, I think every office experiences this, and it gets compounded the larger the firm gets, I'd imagine, if the processes aren't streamlined. But one of the things that you mentioned in that receipt part of the webcast, you had talked about electronic return receipts, but could you perhaps give a little bit more details, and is it included in the shipping software?
Yeah.
Having those return receipts.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure can. And I'm going to take a minute and take control back and share my screen if I could. Once I get to that level, there we go. So from a standpoint of electronic return receipt, instead of the green card, what comes back from the Postal Service is a PDF document electronically in the application. So let me share that with you a second here. So instead of getting back a physical green card, you're literally getting back an electronic PDF document, which will show you exactly when it was delivered, and you'll see it on my screen here. So you'll see from the Postal Service on their document the date it was generated, which in this case was 4/28/2005. You'll see the time and date and delivery location and article number, and you'll also see the signature embedded into the document itself. So there is the signature. So you're getting away from this type of situation, and you're moving to a document that's electronic in PDF. If you did put a client matter number in there in the reference field, it physically ends up on the document. So this is a totally automated process. And Sean, I'm glad you brought it up, because we do see that a lot, you know, where we see firms that say, well, what do you do with return receipts when they come back? A lot of folks say, you know what, I don't know. I got to check on that. You know, I have no idea what happens. So this makes sure that everybody is doing it the same way, first and foremost, but also that you have one solution to go get the electronic return receipts from that's already PDF'd, already available from an electronic standpoint, and already automated in fashion overall. And the system will bring them in automatically, making it very simple.
Very good. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Another question, I think this is more of a system question, is the export of the shipping information for billing done automatically? I don't know if that, yeah.
Yep. So we can have the solution automatically do a daily export or weekly or monthly, whatever you want to do, through a task scheduler. So every day at 8 p.m. at night or 4 a.m. in the morning, the system can automatically export all your billing information from a client matter perspective in a share folder, in a Dropbox, whatever you want, and then you can import that into your system in a CSV format or Excel, right? And then it can be imported into any system out there. So no matter, thanks to Microsoft, if you will, Sean, there's some standardization as far as import-export. So a CSV file can be imported to any client matter billing system known to man that I'm aware of. Have not run into one. We could not. They could not take in a simple CSV file or Excel file, if you will. So that can be totally automated and streamline that process entirely. Sure. Awesome question as well.
I think it's along those same lines. You mentioned the client matter numbers. How are they updated in the system?
Awesome. So again, a scheduled import. So we have firms that have literally create client matter numbers every hour on the hour. So the system can be scheduled to go out and look in a specific shared drive or folder or Dropbox and automatically import that new client matter file, a number of client matter numbers all day long. So it can automatically import them so it's most constantly up to date. We have firms that literally are creating them every hour in the hour. So very simple to import client matter numbers, and then therefore they're validated in the system immediately. So no one's transacting without accounting for that spend overall. But that's a perfect question around the legal side. We hear that quite constantly. So good question.
Very good. One question we had, Tom, was for tracking packages, can you capture who signed for it?
100% correct. So we can capture the signature electronically on devices that we provide, just a simple handheld device, which they just scan the package, hand it to the recipient, they sign for it. Pardon me. And that signature is captured. I apologize, I'm struggling with a chest cold. And that signature is captured. So yeah, absolutely can capture the signatures in that case. If you don't want to capture signatures, fine, don't capture signatures. Completely up to you from that perspective. I will say that most firms do capture signatures just to try to, total closed loop process. If they gave it to Tom Hazel, I can prove to Tom Hazel it was received because here's your signature, Tom. So definitely makes it simple.
How are the carrier costs captured in the transaction? So
great question. So essentially the system does a web services call with your account number with UPS or FedEx. It brings those rates into the system. It then displays them in a rate shop view. You select the carrier, it's capturing all the costs. So the fuel is there. The fuel surcharge is there, the base cost is there, any additional residential or delivery fees that can't be avoided are captured in the transaction. When you send the package, it then records it in history, and then it can be then exported and reported back into your systems overall.
Okay, and then along that same vein, I think, would be, can the ERRs that come back be emailed to whoever generated the mailing when they come in, or will whoever generated the mailing have to go in and download it?
That's a phenomenal question. Yeah, so it can be either or. So if you want to have somebody centrally, pull those pieces of information across, that's fine. If the person that sent it wants to review it and see if it was delivered, that's fine as well. So you have multiple ways of looking up signatures within the application. So it's completely up to you how you want to orchestrate that. You can assign somebody to do it. You can do it yourself. You can have it emailed. Completely up to you from that perspective.
Very good. A little flexibility there.
You have a lot of flexibility there, Sean, really, to answer it succinctly. Let me just show you, if I could, one more time, if you don't mind me sharing again. Are we all right with that?
Sure. We have a few more minutes. And we have, looks like 2 more questions.
Okay. So within the application, there's a View app. So you go up to My Apps and View. You could type in the individual's name, the client matter number, the case number. You can research a return receipt electronically any way you want. So if I just type in WRR for Tom Wrightson, for instance, I can then look at the electronic return receipt signature right in front of me. So this is what you would see from the Postal Service. If I say download the PDF, that's when you get this form. So very simple to look up electronic return receipts within the application. So if for you, Sean, you wanted to look up return receipts that you've done for the month or the week or the year, you can look up by your name that you sent these. If you want to look it up from a standpoint of an individual or a client matter or case number, you can look it up that way as well. So you have flexibility, really, to look it up any way you want to within the application.
Very helpful. Thank you. And I guess, from a baseline for folks who have a postage meter, does the software replace the postage meter altogether?
That's an awesome question. So the system does have the capability. Again, I'm going to share again. The system does have the capability to print stamps. So in the case you have a smaller firm location that doesn't need a hard postage meter, the system can print stamps as well. So I just go to My App, I select stamps, for instance, and then I can print stamps out of this application as well. So I can just put in my stamp sheet number, serial number of the stamp sheet, And now I can say, okay, I need to print X amount of stamps. I can choose my quantity. I can put in my weight. I can rate those stamps based on free ounces. I can also account for it by cost center number or company code again. So I can make sure that all my costs are charged back accordingly. So I can definitely print stamps from an application. So in the cases you don't need a sealing unit for letters, you don't need a hardened meter, you just need a site to have stamps capability, this same exact solution can do stamps, return receipt, and carrier management all within one application overall. So I can't thank that person enough for that question. Thank you very much.
Very good. All right. Well, Tom, just wanted to take a moment and thank Pitney Bowes and everyone who joined us today. Let you know, just a quick reminder that you will receive the archive of today's webcast, or you can find it anytime on ALA's Legal Marketplace. Look out for Pitney Bowes in your next issue of Legal Management Magazine. And Tom, thanks so much for leading us through Pitney Bowes' solutions as well as case studies within the legal market. ALA, we are leading the business of law and enjoy finding new ways to present efficiencies across the board.
You're more than welcome. You're a great partner and you do great service for your clients, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much.